What's up YouTube, Heretic here, and I'm back with another deck profile for expanded format, looking forward towards regionals. Again, this was going to be a BREAKpoint deck, so we're looking at week 3 regionals, and this is just a BREAKpoint modified version of a deck that we all know and expanded, and some of us, including myself, don't like it, but it is a part of the meta, so we're going to have to look over it anyway. So let's go ahead and at least get educated on this. And that is Sableye Garbodor deck out. So, 4 Sableyes. Yeah. So, Junk Hunt, for those of you who don't know, I'm not sure if that's anyone, for 1 Darkness Energy, you put 2 item cards from your discard back into your hand. So, obviously, you know, that's been pretty much, it's been a lot of things over the years. Hypnotoxic Laser, Crushing Hammer, Computer Search, any A-Spec pretty much, Energy Switch, all that stuff, you know. And of course now we have Time Puzzle, or Puzzle of Time, which just makes it more stupid, but we'll get to that here in a bit. We also have a 2/2 Garbodor line, Garbage Collection Trebuchets, at least my personal preference. Garbodor to shut down abilities, because most of the time abilities are the things that give this deck problems. Seismitoad aside. 2 Bumblebees, since we're playing Mill Out. And then we play 1 Shaman and 1 Jirachi. Draw cards and search supporters. That's it for our Pokemon lineup. Supporters, play 3 copies of Professor Juniper or Sycamore, whichever you choose. Got 2 Ends for Disruption, Shuffle Draw, a whole bunch of stuff. Much larger form of Disruption, a new card in the from this set, Delinquent. Discards a Stadium card that's in play, and then once that happens, your opponent has to discard 3 cards from his or her hand. And if you can get them down to a small enough hand size, that is just absolutely ridiculous. So, by all accounts, take advantage of that. This card is really just, I mean, it's either going to be huge or it's just not going to work out. To me, in this deck, this card is just ridiculous. I honestly, I'm still getting over the fact that it was even printed. But, in any case, moving on, we have 2 copies of Team Flare Grunt and 2 copies of Zero Sick. Originally, this was 3 Flare Grunts and 1 Zero Sick. I switched it up to a 2/2 because Zero Sick can target Pokemon tools, which, I mean, depending, like Muscle Band, I guess, or something. But more importantly, it can also discard from your opponent's benched Pokemon. So maybe like a Float Stone if you're playing off a Lysander. And then also just being able to counteract and combat Seismitoad EX, which is this deck's biggest kryptonite. And because we rely on Sableye to recycle our item cards and replay them over and over again. And with Seismitoad happening, we kind of can't do that. So, at least against Vileplume, if we rush, we can maybe get Garbodor set up before they can get Vileplume out, and it'll be a little less problematic, maybe. We play 1 Getsis, great first turn card, especially against Blastoise, Night March, Vespiquen, any of those turbo decks, Rayquaza. And then a Lysander, which I've actually debated cutting completely, because more often than not, we don't really use that card all too much. Every once in a while we might, but since we're not using Item Lock or anything, we're just mainly trying to bring something with a fat retreat cost out and hope that it sticks. We got 2 Silent Labs, more ways to shut down abilities, especially early game, maybe prevent a Rayquaza player from going off and exploding with like Hoopa or something like that. And 2 Parallel Cities as well, just to knock Jirachi and Shaman off our bench, as well as reduce the damage done by Seismitoad. Try to drag that game out a little longer and give us a better chance of winning it. 4 Puzzle of Time. Other than Sableye itself, and you know, this is right up there with Delinquent as far as the most ridiculous cards in the deck. Play 1 from your hand. It's like a 3-card Pokedex. You look at the top 3 cards of your deck, put them back in any order. You play 2 at one time, and you get to pull any 2 cards from your discard pile back to your hand. It doesn't matter if they're Pokemon, trainers, like Item, Supporter, Stadium, Energy, anything. So, we're going to use Sableye to Junk Hunt for 2 Puzzles of Time, rather than just getting back, you know, whatever 2 item cards. So, at the end of our turn, this will be in our hand, and then he presumably gets knocked out, or maybe he stays there, whatever. And then on our turn, we can just do this, and we can choose anything. any 2 cards and send them right back to our hand. And I'll get into the loop a little more on that here at the end after I've presented the entire list. Anyway, this just really breaks the deck, especially along with Delinquent. We got 3 Ultra Ball to search Pokemon out, 3 Crushing Hammer, just kind of discard opponent's energy again. Trying to mill someone out, we don't really want them to have all their full strength attackers going. 3 VS Seekers to get back supporters, especially if we can't really afford to use Puzzle of Time on them. Like, let's say maybe we need a couple other cards to get them back. So the VS Seeker still does serve a purpose in here, although you could probably cut it down to 2. 3 Battle Compressors, drop our items early game for Sableye to retrieve, or just drop a supporter if we have a VS Seeker and want to play it immediately. Could also just pitch anything and then Puzzle of Time to get it back. All in all, that you could probably cut the 3rd VS Seeker for the 4th Battle Compressor, and that might actually be a lot better. 2 red card. The beef here is that red card plus Delinquent equals a 1-card hand, which means unless they have a Professor Sycamore or a Shaman EX or something to get out of it, they're probably stuck. And we do run 2 Silent Labs, so Shaman would not get them out of that situation if we were able to get a lab down after we Delinquent. That would require a total of 2 Stadium cards, though, which might be stretching it a little bit, but it's conceivable, I guess. Got 2 Trick Shovels. Discard the top card of your opponent's deck. It's also something you might recycle more often late game when you're trying to go for the kill. Whether or not that's necessary, I don't know. This deck might be able to mill your opponent out without even playing Trick Shovel. Who knows? Could also leave them with a dead top deck after playing Delinquent. It'd be pretty hilarious. We got 1 Super Rod in case our Garbodor or all of our Sableyes get knocked out, because that's bound to happen. 1 Enhanced Hammer, discard special energies, kind of goes with our 3 Crushing Hammers and our 2/2 Flare Grunt Zero Sick line. And we got a couple of Float Stones. And then finally we have probably the other most important card in the deck, Life Dew. And I'm going to get into that here in a second. We got 6 Darkness Energy to finish out the line. Now, Life Dew, Sableye, and Puzzle of Time. What typically happens here, I'm going to pick all this up off the playmat and then show you just here real quick exactly what the deal is if you haven't figured it out yet. I know some of you are more than aware of this already, but Sableye's on the board. He's got an energy, and maybe we've got, let's see, maybe we've got a Bunnelby, a Garbodor, and another Sableye down. And for good measure, let's just say things are going well, and we're going to go ahead and put that there. Got a deck in the discard pile somewhere amassed of this pile along with our prizes that we do not have access to. Now, this is up here. Let's say we use Junk Hunt. Now, we can't get this back because this is already here. So, normally that would mean in the past that when he gets knocked out for no prize, the next one would come up, would be able to in turn Junk Hunt for this, back to the hand. He gets knocked out, yields 1 prize to the opponent. So, typically your opponent could then take a prize once every other turn. However, because Puzzle of Times will sit in our hand until our next turn, he gets knocked out, is worth 0 prizes, and then Puzzle of Time comes, grabs this back, and that goes right there. And I guess for this instance, let's just say we get the energy. And then these go right back to our hand. He gets knocked out, and we just wash, rinse, and repeat the cycle all over again. So rather than your opponent taking a prize every other turn, they ain't taking prizes anymore. I mean, sure, there's stuff like they can Lysander or something, try to take something that way. It's one of the reasons I like Parallel City, to knock the Jirachi and Shaman off the bench so they can't take 2 prizes. It also means that their Lysander plays would almost entirely result in their ability to take prizes outside of something like Tool Scrapper or Startling Megaphone. Of course, you can also recycle supporters like this, skipping the VS Seeker aspect if you don't have, if there's no reason to, unless you have a VS Seeker in hand. And it's also able to get Stadium cards back to allow us to play Delinquent more, as well as potentially getting us red card prior to a Delinquent play. So this almost single-handedly defeats the need to really have any kind of recovery cards. However, I do think it is at least a good idea to play 1 to 2 VS Seekers minimum, Like I said, I'd probably go with at least 2. I know this list runs 3. Or you could definitely just, as well, just to run the 1 Super Rod, I think is a good idea, just so that we don't have to waste our time puzzle slots entirely on getting Sableye set up over and over again. You could also run Dark Patch in here. With only 6 energy, that's not a lot, and you don't want to get stuck having to time puzzle for Sableye Darkness energy every turn. So that's another reason why I do like the VS Seekers, just giving us more ways to hit supporters consistently when we need them, whether it's to lock down our opponent with, say, a Delinquent, or just to be able to draw more cards so that we can turn around and continue to retrieve our cards and play them again and again and again. Super Rod can also help us from decking out so that we ensure our opponent decks out first. Like I said, I don't know how often we're going to use Trick Shovel anymore. I didn't use it much when I was playtesting. But that's Sableye Garb with Puzzle of Time, Delinquent, and stuff like that. This deck is really ridiculous. This particular list is tested pretty well for me. And I really wish it hadn't, because I don't want this to be a thing, so TPCI, I don't agree with all the ban requests we've been getting on Verbank, but this one I agree with. Get rid of this thing, please. Till next time, guys. Cheers.